no idea that the impact that COVID was going to have on me and my family. And I remember being aware of COVID. I'm a history buff. I had actually, in the last year, read a history of the 1918 pandemic. So you would think it'd be something that I would be very aware of. And in fact, we were aware of it. We were, I think, comparatively cautious compared to some of my peers, perhaps. But I still went into the office. We still visited people. My last day in the office was March 11th. I remember going down to visit my parents maybe a week or two after that, when a time when no one had any masks. And we visited with them. We went into a store or two. And somewhere along the way, this virus was circulating around, and me and my entire family caught it. And I would give a lot to have avoided that. I don't know how exactly what we did. I wasn't walking around in emergency rooms or going into crowded restaurants at biotech conferences or anything like that. But I would give a lot to try to avoid having had COVID, because it's had a long-term impact on my health. It's 9 months in, and I think I'm just really getting over some of the last of the long-haul symptoms that that COVID can impart for me. It was shortness of breath and extreme fatigue. I haven't been so debilitated, but that as some of my fellow survivors. But it's not been a fun road at all. Fortunately, my wife and my daughter, although they had COVID, they did not have the long haul symptoms. But I'd give a lot to have avoided that.
Well, had I known that we were going to go into a shutdown, I think the biggest thing I would have done is maybe done a little more traveling at the beginning of the year before things went into lockdown. In particular, we had a trip planned for March 19th to, actually, I was going to be speaking at the University of Florida, and my husband and I were going down and we were going to visit his brother. And unfortunately, that was canceled, I think on the 17th when the world shut down. And then his brother passed away in early April. So I really wish we would have had the opportunity to see him before then. And so I guess that's probably the number one thing I would change looking back.
So, we spent a lot of time this year reflecting on a lot of things, right? One of the things that I wish I would have done early on in the year would have been to have taken a real family vacation. And I think that would have been great to be energized for the coming year. As far as my job, I think one of the things that would have been most helpful is to do more planning, even not knowing about an upcoming pandemic, but really just doing more planning in January and February for my team, for our projects. That would have been very helpful.
Well, on the light side, I would have taken more vacation, but seriously, related to work and prioritization, I think I would have prioritized collaboration a little bit more than we did in late 2019. So we had more of a jump start on our collaboration tool pilot when 2020 hit and March came and suddenly we're all virtual and there is no water cooler to collect around and collaborate. So that's one thing I would definitely have done differently.
I think what I would have done differently is been more cognizant of what we were coming up against. I think we all knew early on in 2020 that something unique and not necessarily good was happening in our society, and maybe we would have prepared a little bit better in regards to that. And the other thing I would have done is I probably would have budgeted right at that point, because in hindsight, I got no money in my new budget.
So the first thing that comes to mind thinking about mid-year in the summer is I would have planted more potatoes. And that may sound silly, but I really spent a lot of time gardening, and I found that it was very helpful, not only for me personally, but in my work life, going out and getting my hands dirty. I don't really like to get my hands dirty, but there was great joy in harvesting potatoes. And, you think about potatoes and they are sustaining, and who doesn't like potatoes, and it helped me to really think about what's important. And so planting potatoes both in my garden, but also planting seeds within my staff and within the people that I work with, the people that my team and the entire IT department supports. So I think just planting and tending to the needs of our teams.
Probably what I would have done is pushed to have some budget money so that we had a few projects to work on during the year, because it's been very difficult to be engaged from a work standpoint at times. And I've been pretty lucky. I've been in the office pretty much every day during the pandemic, so I get to see what everybody else is doing as well.
That is hard to say. We had to reprioritize a number of initiatives. We had to make a few hard choices. I think we made good choices overall, given that everyone was asked to cut budgets. One thing I think I would have done differently, though, is maybe focus a little bit more on metrics and getting better metrics across our tool set for knowledge management tools at the firm, because those metrics really help us prioritize our change management efforts. And with everything going on, the insight that the metrics and the data visualization would have given us would have really helped streamline a lot of our decisions on where to focus.
So I think looking back at the middle of the pandemic, the one thing I should have done more of is spent more time outside, going for walks during the day. I tend to come into work and get very focused, and the next thing I know, it's the end of the day or time for bed. I do that normally at work as well when I'm in the office, but at least when I'm in the office, there's a stop time and you go home. Here, I think I could have taken a lot more advantage of just going out for a quick walk to invigorate myself, as opposed to being so buried in what I was doing.
And I think looking back on it, if I had paid more attention to self-care, things like taking consistent walks and perhaps looking into physical therapy at that point, and also making sure I spent time outdoors. I do look back and we had some of that, but I think it would have helped me significantly in my, as things went on, to have done that. That being said, there is something of a happy ending. At least in July, we had a successful rollout of a major experience management platform.
From a work standpoint, I think I will come up with a number of priorities that I can share with the firm management and make sure that we get those done in 2021. And then from a family standpoint, I want to make sure that we can spend more time together. And at the end of this ordeal, we're going to have one big, huge celebration where we're going to celebrate every holiday on one day.
So I've been thinking about 2021, and we all, I think, are still seeing a lot of uncertainty as to what our work environments are going to look like. My firm culture is not one that embraced working remotely until the pandemic. And the thing that we have all learned is that we really have done some great work together, even though we're apart. And so I think, again, planning for whatever the future of 2021 looks like, and really thinking about all the possibilities, and will we be in a hybrid mode? Will some of us be remote? Will some of us be on site? What will our workspace needs require? So I think, just as, going back to those potatoes, when you plant a garden, you have to think about all kinds of factors. And I think returning to the office, if that's what's going to happen in 2021, will require a lot of planning, a lot of consideration of variables yet unknown to us. So for me, That means really working with my team, with my colleagues in other departments, and really encouraging brainstorming and listening to other people's ideas, and being open to more open to sharing my ideas, and really trying to help prepare for whatever situation we might face.
I think one of the biggest challenges planning for 2021 is the whole continued hybrid work environment and keeping my employees challenged and driven. Part of that is, creating new opportunities and new challenges for them. I think it's also just being engaged and having regular conversations on a routine basis. So I think that's really important. I think it's also important for me as a person to really try to incorporate exercise more into my daily routine, and figure out some kind of trigger that I can create that actually makes me think of that during the middle of the day.
One thing we'll do differently for sure is focus more on our strategic plan. We definitely put that on the back burner this year. And while I think that was appropriate, I don't think it's a good long-term solution to position us well for coming out of the pandemic.
One of the major areas of my activity is in the area of collaboration technology. I don't work on Zoom, but I work on Microsoft Teams. And that's definitely an area where, given that people are still, for the most part, isolated from each other, not able to be physically present in the same room, that's going to be an area where we're investing more in. We're going to be moving towards making that more available for our clients, and finding as many ways as we possibly can to stay connected. And that isn't just about the business. It's not just about having a technology that's a communications technology that can help you. That's necessary. It's good, but also thinking about ways to stay in touch with each other, ways to reach out to people you ordinarily would bump into the halls, see at the coffee shop, see at the coffee place at the firm, someone you might have lunch with. Find ways to make those, tenuous connections where you don't have necessarily a reason to see the person, but it's still a good thing to see them, and you care about them, and you need to stay in touch with them, and we need to find better ways of doing that.